this is Paula from Alanda Craft, and in this video we're going to show you how to make these beautiful soft woolen scarves without having to knit a thing. So let's get started. So this is what you're going to need. First of all, you need some water-soluble stabiliser, and it depends what width and length you want for your scarf. By all means, you make whatever length you like, but we've gone with an 8" by 60", and it seems pretty good for us. You can get a scarf that you've already got and get the measurements for that if you want a particular length.
And we need an assortment of wool.
Yep. So
we've got a whole variety of different types and textures.
Yep, anything you like really. Yep. You can have multicolour. We're going sort of with a pink sort of theme here.
Some bits of material that are going to fit in with your theme.
Yep,
scraps. Some Angelina fibre, which we've made up before we've started.
I mean, that's optional, obviously.
Yes.
Any of this really is, well, not all optional. I guess you do need the wool, for one thing.
Yeah, and we've got some ribbon here that we're going to also cut bits up into.
Different types of ribbon. And also some, what do you call this?
Fleece, I think it is.
No, there's a word for it and it's gone from my head, but we will post it on the screen. But yeah, you'll need some of this sort of stuff as well. But any sort of fabric, wool, fibre, all different things like that, Angelina fibre, anything like that will work for this. Okay.
We have used feathers as well at times, but they can be a bit scratchy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to just pick a...
So we peel off one of these. We only need one of these for the moment. This is actually a lot of fun.
Now, there are no rules with this. You do exactly what you want.
Yep.
So we just lay down some wool. And just cut it off at the end.
What we normally do, well, we don't normally, but sometimes we'll create a line of wool in different colours. Another one. I'll put that one on the outside maybe. And so much. You can make these straight lines down here. You can make them curvy. Whatever works for you. Down. Move this one closer to the edge. Move this one further down. Okay, what's next? Anything with one of these? Do we want another line in there, or are you happy with 4?
I think another line. We just put a wool in there.
The wool. Okay. So it's usually our base to start with, and then you just go for it.
Go for it now. So you just.
The trick is to get as much on here as much as here as possible. If you don't have enough, what you end up with is holes in the scarf. And a good way of doing this is to come from above and just let it swirl around. So let's just move that up a little bit. Okay.
You don't have to create patterns or anything, you just let it fall.
Yep. Swirl it round. Do you want to swap as we get here?
Yep.
Take that one.
Good.
You want to try and get to the edges. Make sure you don't bunch everything up in the middle. You want it sort of even across the scarf here. A bit of silver.
And it doesn't matter where you stop and start. If, like this, I'm running out in the middle here. Doesn't matter, just let it go. great way for using up all those leftover bits of wool from your knitting projects.
It's also a great one for the kids too.
Yes.
Get your kids in there doing this, they'll love it. They can make their own scarf. You might need to do the sewing part of this, but they can do the creative part. Swap again.
The only reason the two of us are doing this is because it's therapeutic and we both love doing it.
It is, it's very...
It's something you can do quite easily on your own.
And if you're really not all that creative, this is a great one really, because
Yes.
you don't have to worry
You don't
about
have
it.
to worry about
You
it.
just get in there and just
Let it go.
let it go, yep. I've got a good layer going there. I might start adding some of the wool here. So what you do with this stuff is you just grab a piece, separate it out into tufts and just drape it down.
This is what craft should be, fun.
Yeah. Well, it is fun, isn't it?
It is fun, that's right. But some of them are a bit stressful because you have to think so much about what you're doing, but this is just wonderful.
It turns out great, you know, really the results are, people go, wow, that's a beautiful scarf.
Okay, I'm going to just chop some Angelina into it. Just adds a lovely sparkle.
Alrighty, I think we're probably done. So the next step is to just make sure all these edges are even kind of thing. Bring it a little bit so that they line up with your interfacing underneath. And one tiny little bit of edge showing on your interfacing. Sort of here. Okay, now we get our other piece, pop it on the top. Okay, so what we want to do now is pin all of this together. So what you want to do is pin the edges. What we want to do is sew an inch apart this way and then an inch apart this way.
Approximately an inch.
Yeah, give or take. You don't want it too small because otherwise the scarf comes out too harsh.
Yes.
But you don't want them too wide either because otherwise it start falling out. So about an inch, give or take. Yeah. So we tend to just eyeball it and go for it. But if you want to draw lines along here, by all means do so. If you're doing it for the first time, just get your ruler out and draw lines along here and along this way. And it'll make it a lot easier for you if you're just starting out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the sewing machine.
Yes.
So what we're going to do now is sew this. So I'm going to come down the middle first. There will be quite a lot of bulk in this, so make sure your sewing machine is able to handle a little bit of bulk. Too much about being perfectly straight because you won't really see this stitching much at all. So what colour thread have you used? Pink thread to match the scarf colours, and the same the top and the bottom. So when I come down to this bottom part, down right to about here, get my needle in the down position. I'm going to pivot here. I'm going to come all the way to the corner and come on up. Now here I might just resort this a little, and you may need to do this as you go along the sides just to get it right. And I'm going to turn and come up the side. Probably should come over a little bit more, but I'm going to not worry. So as you come around to these edges, try to tuck them in a little bit. I'm going to turn. Come straight across now, right across here, and come up to the other edge. Okay, so you can see what I've done so far. I've just created lines going vertically along here. And you can see it's all bunched up in places. It doesn't matter. You can also see that this bit is thicker than these bits. Again, it doesn't matter. Try and keep them as even as possible, but it really won't matter in the end result. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up this way. So I'm going to sew up here and along here and keep coming along here and pivoting each time and sewing over my previous stitches all the way up. So I'm just going to go for about that much. Turn. The ideal is to sew over your previous line so you don't get two sew threads, so do your best to do that. But again, don't worry too much. That's why I'm slowing down here so I can just match my other line if possible. If you've got an open toe foot, that really helps. And then I'm going to sew over the previous line as best as possible and come up and around, and I'm going to continue to do that all the way up. So as you can see, I've finished sewing this now and I've created that grid pattern. You can also use a sort of a stippling pattern if you like, or if it's going to be a stippling pattern though, make sure it crosses over. The whole point of this is it needs to do a crossover so that it stays together. If you just do a stippling and nothing joins, it'll unravel. When we started, we just did a sort of a swirly type pattern and just did random sort of things, but the grid pattern seems to come out a lot nicer and a lot neater. You can also do diagonal if you want, like that, whatever suits you, especially if you're a machine embroiderer. You do free motion quilting, you'll be able to do something fancy, but again, just remember to make sure you cross over so that it all stays together. So the next step now is we're going to go and pop this in some water to dissolve all that interfacing there. Okay, so now we're ready to pop it in some water. Okay, so there we go. See already how beautiful that looks. And you'll need to do this about 3 times at least to really get all that stickiness out. So you'd want to empty this water out and then fill it up again and do the same thing again three or four times, so until you stop feeling the stickiness in it, because if you don't take it all out, all that interfacing, it will be stiff. You'll feel kind of stiff, so you want it to be nice and soft and fluffy. So the idea is to get out as much of it as you can. So I'll continue to do that now, and then we'll show you the final result.